若たんかで本かしらでを引きかでほやて投げたんかでとんかしらで吐きせたでほやてうやわかんなねひぴウやなかせじなほやてへへへやへやへやほ若たんかで若たんか
Welcome to the Oracle of Mask. Today I'll show you how I made this Shaman Headdress, so have fun. First of all, I'm going to make a plan with all the steps for the project. Here you can see how I make the model of a mask with my self-made vacuum former. And here is a link where you can see how I made it. Then I took a scissor and cut the mask out. Then I covered the mask with tape and drew a template with all the details for the second layer. Then I took the tape off and pasted it onto a normal paper sheet. Then I took a cutter, cut everything out, and voila, here we have our template. And with a pencil, I drew all the details on the mask. For the second layer, I'm gonna use this 2mm EVA foam sheet. Then I copied everything on this EVA foam sheet, cut it out, and we had all the details for the mask. For gluing everything together, I used as always contact cement. And for the little parts, I use this Uhu soft PVC glue. Then with the cutter, I cut in some wood patterns on the mask. To bring the patterns more a bit out, I took the soldering iron tool. And through my experience, I know that it's always good to have a test model, where you can try out everything first. So I repeated the same steps as before, but this time I'm going to put the details directly on it with the soldering iron tool. So it would look more like an engraving. And here also I put on the same wood pattern. Now onto the Shaman Headdress. For the main headpiece I'm gonna use this mask. And here also I repeated the same steps as before. And that's how it looks like. And here you can see the parts that would hold the Shaman Headdress together. For this one I also took 2mm EVA foam sheet. And then with contact cement I glued everything together. Then I cut out the rest of the mask, and here we have our first prototype. To enforce it a bit, I also glued another layer of EVA foam sheet over it. Not so bad after all. Now onto the horns. Herefore I used this EVA foam sheet floor mat. Then I drew some templates for the horns and cut it out. And after pasting it to the EVA foam sheet and cutting it out, these are the results that we have. Then after gluing everything together, I would cut the horns into the form. But I found out that it works way better with a cutter and not with a scissor. So, and here we have our first test run, and it doesn't look so bad. Then with a pen I drew some shamanic markings over it and took the soldering iron tool and burned it into them. And with the cutter I also went over the horns so it looks a bit more natural. And as the horns have some weight on them, I enforced the headbands a bit more. And here you can see that I also cutted the wood patterns on it. And also please never forget some security measurements. For gluing the things together I always use this mask. And that's our first model. And here you can see how I punched some holes to it, for binding it behind the head together. So now on to the priming. And bam! That's how it looks like. I love this step. I always would like to stop here. Look at how cool they look. And also the horns came out really well, but I thought that it was lacking a bit of material. And here you can see what I did in the meantime. I really liked the organic look of the mask, but I thought it was a bit too much, so I covered only some parts of the mask. And as you can see, as always, I used the sponge, as it makes a really great texture. It looks really cool, old and somehow weathered. And here you can see how I made a bit more details for the headdress. So, onto the coloring. As this piece was really big, I used some acrylic spray cans. And covered it with some rosé gold, blue and turquoise. And for making it look a bit more organic, I did the same as I did on the mask. Took the sponge and some color and went over it. Now it does really match. And here you can see how I put on some spikes onto the mask. Oh yes, and I completely forgot the horns that would came as the earring decoration. And with this really thick string, I attached it to the headdress. So, and these are the materials that I bought on the internet, and the rest of the details. There are some crazy thin gold ornaments, some feathers, and some wood chains. But as the gold was a bit too clean, I took a sponge, black acrylic color, and went over it. Then I attached some string on it, and now I'm really happy. And that's the final result. I'm really happy how it turned out, as I had no idea where I was going to. It's the first project of a kind, I would say, but I had really fun making this Shaman Headdress and this episode. So, I hope you had fun watching this episode. Till the next time, Mask signing out.